I moved into this vintage brownstone a few months ago. I was 35, looking for quiet after the craziness of city life. Winter had just started, and I thought this old place would be perfect. The charm made me feel cozy, but I can't shake the memory of that first night. I settled in with a hot drink, the snow falling softly outside. It was peaceful. Then I heard a faint tapping at my window. I thought it was just branches. I ignored it, but the sound wouldn't stop. I felt uneasy, like something was watching me. I stood up and looked outside, but there was nothing, just dark streets and flickering streetlights. My heart raced, but I told myself it was nothing. The next few nights were quiet. At least I thought they were. Then I started hearing muffled voices in the halls. I could hear people talking, but I couldn't make out the words. When I checked, I saw no one. It felt wrong, as if I was being watched. I convinced myself it was just the old building settling or my imagination. One night shadows moved past my window. I felt a chill, a different kind of cold that had nothing to do with the winter air. I tried to shake it off. But then, on a particularly freezing night, I found strange footprints leading away from my door. They were small, almost childlike, but too deep in the snow. My breath caught in my throat. It felt like someone had been right outside. I wondered if my mind was playing tricks on me. I didn't know the place well enough to trust my instincts. I searched for cameras or anything that would explain the noise, but found nothing. As time passed, I questioned everything. Was I the only one around? The whispers returned, stronger and more frequent. They echoed at all hours. I sat in silence, listening. It felt like I could almost understand them, but the words faded before I could grasp anything. I thought about leaving, but the winters felt lonely, and I wanted a place to call home. Then on a night when the storm raged outside, the tapping turned into banging. It startled me. I felt trapped, as if something was trying to get in. I picked up my phone to call someone, but the signal dropped. Just like that, I was completely alone. I stood frozen, listening. The banging grew louder, matching my heartbeat. Then everything went still. I waited, my breath heavy in the silence. Hours passed. Suddenly a voice surged through the quiet. "Mark, let me in." I jumped. The words came from just outside my door. I stared at the door, trembling. Did I imagine that? Maybe it was just the wind. But what if it wasn't? I stayed frozen at the door, heart pounding. The voice felt alive, echoing in my mind. "Mark, let me in." Who was it? I could barely think straight. I was cautious, afraid of what might be on the other side. I glanced at the clock. It was well past midnight. I wanted to call for help, but my phone sat useless in my pocket. I took a step back, eyes glued to the door, my mind racing. What if it was someone in trouble? Or worse, what if it wasn't? After a moment that felt like an eternity, I gathered the courage to speak. "Who are you?" My voice came out shaky, almost a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening, and I held my breath, waiting for the answer. Then, there it was again, louder this time. "Mark, I need you to open the door." It was a plea, full of urgency. My knees felt weak. It didn't sound like someone I knew, but the way it said my name made my pulse quicken. I can't," I managed to say, every word hanging in the air. The knocking seemed to shift, becoming more frantic. I pressed my ear against the cold wood, listening. It was like something was trying to claw its way in. I felt trapped, like a prisoner in my own home. Out of desperation, I turned and grabbed my kitchen knife. I wasn't sure if it would help, but I needed something to protect myself. Whispers drifted back, eerie as they threaded through the air. It felt like they were all around me, wrapping tighter with each heartbeat. "Mark," they seemed to call, echoing through the halls. I took a deep breath. I couldn't stay locked away forever. I dragged my feet back toward the door, my grip tight around the knife. Deep down, I knew I had to confront whatever was outside. "Just a moment," I shouted, and then I slowly unlocked the door, my hand trembling. The air felt charged, like static before a storm. The moment I pulled the door open, I found myself staring into the void of darkness, empty and tranquil. Nothing. No one stood there. I squinted, trying to see into the shadows. "Hello?" My voice was wavering now. I leaned forward, the knife pointed outward, ready for an attack. But there was nothing more, just the cold creeping in. I stepped outside, hesitating on the threshold. A faint sound pulled me back, hushed whispers from the far end of the hall. My skin prickled with unease. It couldn't be my imagination. This was a real place, filled with real people. Wasn't it? As I crept forward, I felt a chill run up my spine. A small flicker caught my eye. I turned, finding an old photograph half buried in the snow by the wall. I knelt to pick it up, unwilling to ignore its presence. That's when I saw it. The picture was worn, a family of 4 smiling back at me. But something was wrong. One figure in the corner looked familiar, too familiar. My heart raced as I recognized a face from my past, one I had hoped to forget. That realization sent a wave of fear through me. I had stumbled onto something deeper than the haunted stories I had imagined. I stumbled back, feeling the weight of the photograph in my hand. The whispers called to me again, growing louder. I was no longer alone. I could sense it now. Whatever had been watching me in the dark was only just beginning to reveal itself. Then, echoing through the stillness, a childlike laugh pierced the air. I jumped at the sound, my breath catching in my throat. A laugh like that didn't belong here. The photo slipped from my fingers, landing in the snow with a soft thud. I scanned the hallway, still shrouded in darkness, but I felt eyes on me. I gripped the knife tighter, my heart racing faster. "Who's there?" I called out. My voice felt small against the wall of silence hanging around me. The whispers faded momentarily, leaving a hollow void. I took a step back, my instincts screaming to retreat to the safety of my home. Then the laughter came again, lighter this time, almost playful. It echoed down the hall, leading me further into the darkness. Against all logic, I felt drawn to it, like some invisible thread was pulling me forward. I hesitated, my mind wrestling with every instinct telling me to run. "Mark?" The voice was sweet and innocent. It sent chills down my spine. It was like the call of a child who wanted to play, but something deep within me knew that playing with shadows seldom ended well. I moved slowly down the darkened corridor, the shadows enveloping me with each hesitant step. The air grew colder, and I felt the weight of the night pressing down on me. The laughter came again, a burst of sound that rang through the empty space. It was close now, just around the corner. As I rounded the bend, I saw it. A figure stood at the far end of the hallway, silhouetted against the pale light spilling from a window. My instincts told me to flee, but I was frozen in place, held by curiosity and fear. "Come play with me, Mark," the figure beckoned, spinning around. It was a girl, her hair long and wild, her eyes wide and gleaming. My heart sank. She looked just like the child from the photograph, a face I couldn't shake from my mind. "No," I whispered, backing away. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, but my legs felt heavy, weighed down by dread. "You're not real." She smiled, but there was something off about it. "Why do you think that?" "You remembered me. You always said we would play together forever." Her laugh cut through the air again, more haunting than before. The warmth of my home felt impossibly far away now. "Stay back," I yelled, raising the knife, though I wasn't sure if it would protect me. My heart thundered in my chest as she took a step closer, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. I stumbled back to the door but felt a cold breeze behind me, as if something had blocked my exit. Shadows danced along the walls, swirling with intentions I couldn't understand. I turned back to face her, but she had vanished, replaced only by the cold silence that wrapped around me. Before I could gather my wits, I felt something brush against my cheek, like a hand. I spun around, panic surging through me. A whisper floated in the air, brushing past my ear. "Mark, I'm not done with you yet." That was the final straw. My heart raced as I bolted. I tore back down the corridor, desperate to escape whatever had stepped out of the shadows. But when I reached the door, it wouldn't budge. Something unseen held it shut, and dread began to crawl up my spine. I was trapped. I pressed my back against the door, my breaths coming in sharp, panicked gasps. I couldn't see what was behind me, but I could feel it. The air in the hallway thickened, and a whisper slid through the silence like ice. "Mark, why are you so scared?" I shook my head, trying to clear the fog of fear clouding my thoughts. I had to think. I could not let this, whatever it was, overpower me. I turned my attention back to the door. My grip tightened on the knife, and I braced myself. With every ounce of strength I had, I pushed against the door, but it remained immovable. Clawing at the knob, I realized I needed a different approach. There had to be another escape. My eyes darted around the room, searching for a window or a vent, any opening that might give me a chance. Then, something caught my attention. The small window at the far end of the corridor, narrow and partially obscured by the shadows. It was a long way to go, but the laughter echoed again, taunting me, urging me to stay. Summoning my courage, I made a break for it. I forced myself to ignore the fear clutching at my insides. As I sprinted, I glanced over my shoulder. The corridor seemed longer than before, the distance to the window stretching out like I was running in slow motion. Then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of soft footsteps behind me. I turned just in time to catch a glimpse of her, the girl from the photograph. She was closer now, her face twisted into an unsettling grin. "Don't run, Mark. I just want to play." Her voice bounced off the walls, making it hard to think straight. I quickened my pace, desperate to reach the window. My heart raced as I felt the cold brush of her presence edging closer. Finally, I reached the window and snagged the frame with my fingers. I pulled, but it wouldn't budge. I was about to scream in frustration when I noticed the latch was rusted and stuck. I cursed under my breath while glancing back at her. She was there, just a few feet away, her eyes locked onto me like a predator. With trembling hands, I fumbled with the latch. It fought against me, but I wouldn't give up. I dug my nails into the metal, trying every angle I could think of. The cold seeped through the window, making my hands numb, and still I struggled. "Mark, you shouldn't be so rude," she sang in a mocking tone. I bit back a whimper when her voice turned sharp. It was a reminder of how trapped I really was. I took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and yanked the latch one last time. It popped open with a screech, and I felt a rush of hope. I pushed the window up, feeling the frigid air whip against my flushed face. But as I tried to climb through, a chilling breeze wrapped around my torso, almost pulling me back. "Come back, Mark," her sing-song voice echoed, sharp and demanding. Fighting against the unseen pressure, I twisted towards her in the hallway, a final desperate act of defiance. "I'm not coming back." That's when I saw it, a shadow moving behind her, larger and darker than she was. My breath caught again, and as I tried to scramble through the window, that creeping dread morphed into pure terror. The latch was still loose in my hand, and in my rush I nearly toppled out. But as I brought my other foot through the opening, something grabbed my ankle. I was on the verge of slipping out into the unknown, desperately fighting against that unseen grip. "No!" I screamed. The girl's laughter crescendoed, echoing in that dark hallway as I tugged with all my might. "Mark, you can't leave me." In that moment, I knew my fight was only just beginning. I felt the grip around my ankle tighten, cold and unyielding. Panic coursed through me with every desperate tug I made to free myself. "Let go!" I cried, my voice mingling with the girl's fading laughter. I couldn't glance back at her again. I forced myself to focus on the window. I was so close, yet so impossibly far from freedom. With one final surge of determination, I kicked out hard, my foot connecting with cool air. The force gave me the leverage I needed. I slipped through the window, tumbling out into the night. The icy ground caught me, jolting my body awake. I scrambled to my feet and turned. The moment I landed, an unsettling silence enveloped me. The air was still, too still, but I could still feel that laugh lingering just behind me, like a ghostly echo. I was outside now, in the open. The moon hung heavy in the sky, bathing the yard in a pale light. The enormous old house loomed behind me, and I took a moment to catch my breath. But the sense of safety didn't last long. The darkness felt thick and alive, shifting and shuddering at the edges of my vision. I had no plan, but instinct kicked in. I sprinted toward the tree line at the edge of the property, my only shot at escape. The branches clawed at me as I brushed past, whipping against my skin. I didn't care. I just had to keep moving. As I dashed into the woods, everything fell eerily silent. There wasn't even a rustle of leaves. It felt wrong. My mind raced through the nightmarish encounter, trying to piece together what had just happened. Then suddenly a rustling noise came from behind me. I stopped dead in my tracks. I glanced back, breath hitching in my throat. Nothing was there, but I sensed a presence. Something watching me. "Mark," a voice whispered, weaving through the trees. I froze, recognizing it instantly. It was her. The girl from the hallway. Her haunting tone lured me like bait. "Go away," I yelled into the darkness. My heart beat like a war drum, but deep down I was terrified of what I couldn't see. "Leave me alone." I turned to run again, but this time the rustling intensified. Something heavy was moving through the underbrush. Panic surged. I bolted deeper into the woods, branches snagging at my clothes and pulling me back. The adrenaline quickened every nerve in my body. I could feel it in my fingertips. After what felt like forever, I burst into a small clearing. Moonlight flooded the area, and I almost dared to breathe. But the relief was short-lived. The air around me felt charged, thickening with an electric energy. That's when I saw it. A faint silhouette flickering under the branches, shifting as if caught between worlds. It wasn't the girl this time, but something much darker and heavier. I stumbled back, heart racing, only to hear her voice once more. "Mark, don't you want to play?" I turned to run again, my feet pounding against the ground. I couldn't stop now. I had to find a way out before whatever hunted me closed in. Just then, the ground beneath me gave way, and I teetered on the edge of a hidden hole, more like a pit. In that split second of realization, the shadows erupted. Something reached out, and I screamed. I was falling into darkness. I hit the ground hard, landing in a pit of damp earth and decay. My breath escaped me in a shallow gasp. For a moment, all I could do was lay there, stunned, surrounded by the suffocating darkness. Panic bubbled up inside me, suffocating every reasonable thought. I pushed myself up on my elbows, my pulse hammering against the silence. The ground was soft and uneven beneath me, and I struggled to get my bearings. My surroundings felt wrong. The air smelled of rot, and I could hear a faint, rhythmic dripping sound nearby, like water leaking from an unseen source. "Mark!" The voice called again, closer this time. It sent shivers racing down my spine. I couldn't tell how, but I knew she was down here with me. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing once more. "Leave me alone!" I shouted into the blackness, my voice echoing off the walls of the pit. I turned, searching for the way up, but the walls were too steep. Panic resurfaced, clawing at my throat. "Where are you?" I cried out, hoping for some answer. In the dim light filtering from a crack in the roof above, I noticed something glinting off a wall, the reflection of something metallic. I moved toward it, slipping on the damp soil. With a bit of effort, I reached the wall, fingers brushing against the rough surface. I could see it more clearly now. It was a rusted pipe, twisted and bent. That might work, if I could climb to it and pull myself up. Suddenly, a cold gust whipped through the pit, and I heard the rustling again, a low, echoing whisper slithering around me. "Why don't you want to play with us, Mark?" I felt my legs turn to lead. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I glanced back, and there she was, her figure emerging from the shadows, hair hanging limp like dark tendrils. My heart raced as dread washed over me. No. I spun back to the pipe. I could see the faint outline of my escape, but it was a long way up. I took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of my courage. I had no choice. Using the wall for support, I climbed up the uneven ground, reaching for the pipe with trembling fingers. I felt my fingertips graze its cold surface, then my grip slipped. I gasped, slipping back down, falling to the soil with a thud. Desperation surged once more, igniting my strength. And then I heard laughter, soft, melodic, but chilling. It echoed around me and sent a shiver racing down my spine. "You can't escape, Mark. You belong with us now." I tried again, focusing on pulling myself up. I found purchase on the pipe, pushing down with my legs, forcing my weight upwards, bit by bit. The laughter intensified, mingling with the low whispers of the shadows crawling closer. As I hung there, every fiber of my being urged me to keep climbing, to not look back, but I couldn't help myself. I glanced down and saw her staring up at me, eyes gleaming with a wicked light. Just as I was about to reach the edge, something grabbed at my ankle. My heart skipped a beat. I kicked out blindly, desperation fueling my movements. I made it to the top, scrambling onto the edge of the pit. There, I paused, catching a breath, adrenaline surging again. But I could feel the shadows closing in, that chill wrapping around me, pulling me down again. That's when I heard a low growl behind me, like a predator closing in. I had to go, and fast. I launched myself across the edge, landing in a roll that took me into the underbrush. But I didn't stop. I had to get away from both the pit and whatever hunted me. Only, I didn't know where to run next. I stumbled through the dense underbrush, branches tearing at my clothes. My breath came in quick bursts as I navigated the dark landscape. I didn't dare look back. I could still hear the low growl resonating through the trees, echoing in my mind like a chilling refrain. The air felt heavy and cold, wrapping around me like a shroud. I forged ahead, pushing through fear and uncertainty. Each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves made me jump. I wished for the reassurance of daylight or, at the very least, to have a sense of direction. The trees loomed tall above me, their gnarled branches casting twisted shadows that danced in the night. A flicker of movement caught my eye. I froze, heart pounding as I scanned the area. Nothing. I took a cautious step forward. That's when I saw it. A faint golden glow in the distance, flickering like a candle in the dark. Intrigued and desperate, I shifted toward it, praying it led to safety. As I approached, the glow brightened, revealing a small cabin that seemed oddly out of place amid the woods. It looked abandoned, but intact. I hesitated at the door. Should I go in? It might be a trap, but what choice did I have? The echoes of laughter and whispers still haunted me, lurking just beyond my reach. I pushed the door open, and a creak echoed through the stillness. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust. A soft orange light flickered from a fireplace in the corner, its flames sputtering to life. I stepped deeper inside, half expecting to find someone waiting for me. But I was alone. I scanned the room. Everything was untouched, as if the occupants had left in a hurry. Old furniture was draped in white sheets, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like forgotten ghosts. I moved around cautiously, my instincts screaming that I needed to leave before whatever hunted me found me here. The fireplace caught my attention again. I knelt beside it, pulling at the rusted screen. If I could stoke the fire, maybe the warmth would comfort me, or at least keep the shadows at bay. With trembling hands, I gathered some kindling and crumpled it into the empty hearth. But as I reached for a match on the mantel, something caught my eye out of the window. I turned just in time to see a dark figure slip behind a tree. Panic surged through me. I dropped the match. It landed on the floor with a soft thud. I felt paralyzed. Was it one of them? Had they followed me here? The whispering returned, chaotic and taunting. "You can't hide forever, Mark." I bolted to my feet, heart racing, the cabin feeling suddenly too small. I had to get out, but where could I go if they were outside? My mind raced for a plan. I glanced around. There had to be another way out. That's when I noticed a trap door behind a dusty rug in the corner. I jogged to it, heart pounding in my chest. Could I hide down there? Or would it be another mistake? There was only one way to find out. I pulled it open, revealing only darkness below. But if I stayed up here, I knew I wouldn't live to tell the tale. Taking a deep breath, I glanced back one last time at the flickering light. Then I climbed down, hoping the darkness would hide me from whatever nightmare was waiting just outside. The darkness enveloped me as I descended into the trapdoor. I held my breath, straining to listen. The cabin above was silent, but the world outside felt like a wild beast waiting for its moment to strike. I dropped down awkwardly, landing on cool, hard ground below. Crouching there, I scanned my surroundings. The air was damp and musty, and I could barely see anything. I felt my way along the walls, searching for a light source or some sign of where I was. My fingers brushed against something textured. Old wood, maybe. I fumbled around, hoping for a flashlight or some tool to guide me. Then I heard it. A faint scratching noise above me, like claws against wood. My stomach dropped. They knew I was down here. I pressed my back against the wall, heart racing. Was it still outside, or had it come in? The whispering started again, echoing through the darkness. "You can't hide." Each word was slow, deliberate, as if savoring my fear. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block it out, but it looped in my mind, driving my panic up another notch. I needed to move, to find a way out. I cautiously retreated deeper into the darkness, my hands guiding me. I could feel the space growing narrower. It seemed almost like a small tunnel. I pushed on, crawling along, cold earth scraping against my skin. Suddenly, I felt something wet and slimy under my hand. I recoiled, but curiosity drove me forward again. I hesitated, then inched back, my fingers touching the unfamiliar texture. It was soft, and then I felt it shift. My heart leaped into my throat. I scrambled back, fear overwhelming me anew. I wasn't alone down here. A low grunt resonated from the shadows. Panic surged again. I couldn't give up. My nails dug into the ground as I crawled backward, adrenaline pushing me onward. I needed to find a way out, and fast. The whispers grew more frantic, merging with the sounds of whatever was lurking in the darkness. "You're running out of time, Mark." I fought against the urge to scream. Was it taunting me now? I forced myself to focus. I needed to find an exit before I was cornered. I nodded to myself as if that would push my courage back. Drawing in a shaky breath, I continued forward, hoping I wouldn't bump into whatever was closing in on me. At last, I spotted a flicker of light further down the tunnel. I crawled faster, driven by the desperate need to escape. With every inch, I felt the presence behind me drawing nearer, the air thickening with malevolence. As I reached the light, I could hear slithering noises closing in, the whispers loud and chaotic. "You can't run anymore." My heart raced. Whatever was there cornered me. Just as I was about to reach for the light, I felt a hot breath on my neck. My instincts screamed at me to turn, but I knew whatever was hunting me would be waiting. I choked on my fear and pressed on, hoping to slip through into the safety of whatever lay beyond. Would I emerge into another nightmare? The flickering light grew brighter as I drew closer, but so did the presence behind me. I felt it drifting, almost like a shadow, clawing through the murkiness that swallowed the tunnel. The whispers crescendoed, a wicked chant that filled my ears, each syllable pulling me deeper into dread. I lunged for the light, grasping at the opening. My fingers found cool metal, something solid. I pulled myself up, the tunnel floor sliding beneath me as I climbed. The grip tightened, and I swung my body through the gap. With a final push, I pushed forward into whatever lay outside that horrifying tunnel. I fell into a small, cluttered room. Dusty shelves lined the walls, filled with jars and cobwebbed books. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. I tried to collect myself, but the shadows felt alive, shifting and warping as if they had a mind of their own. I didn't dare turn around, convinced whatever was back there had followed me. My breath came in quick bursts, and the taste of fear lingered like bile in my throat. I scanned the room, looking for something to defend myself with. That's when I noticed a door on the opposite wall, slightly ajar. Light seeped through the crack, a promise of safety. But hesitation gripped me. I could feel the whispers feeding on my uncertainty, creeping back into the edges of my mind. "Come play with us, Mark." The words dripped with malice. I stiffened at the thought of stepping into the unknown again. Pushing the fear down, I took a tentative step toward the door. My hand brushed against a shelf, and something clattered to the floor. I flinched, heart racing. The sound echoed in the small space, amplifying the fear gnawing at my insides. What if it was already here? What if it was waiting patiently, biding its time? Gripping the edge of the doorframe, I peered through the gap. Outside, the light spilled into a hallways lined with doors. A soft thumping reverberated in the distance, too rhythmic to be random. My head spun. Was it a heartbeat, or was that the sound of something pursuing me? Taking a breath to steady myself, I pushed the door open wider. The sound felt louder, closer now. I listened harder, only to hear more than one heartbeat, layered and chaotic. Panic swelled inside me like a balloon ready to burst. Then I made a quick decision. I needed to find a way to defend myself. As I slipped into the hallway, the air chilled, sending shivers down my spine. The whispers started up again, persistent and cruel. "You can't escape us, Mark. You belong to us." I hurried down the corridor, fear propelling me forward. I couldn't stop. Whatever was behind me, whatever had been waiting in the darkness, was edging closer, and I could feel its hot breath on my back once more. Then, just as I reached the end of the hallway, I stumbled into a room filled with mirrors. The reflections twisted and turned, distorting my image. But that wasn't all. In one of the mirrors, I saw something lurking behind me. That's when everything went dark. I gasped, jolting awake. My heart raced in my chest, and I blinked rapidly to shake off the remnants of the nightmare. It took a moment to realize I was lying on the cold floor of the abandoned cabin, the only light coming from a sliver of moonlight creeping through a cracked window. I hesitated before sitting up, my entire body feeling battered. The cabin was still, the air tinged with a musty dampness that clung to the walls. Had it all been just a horrific dream? I couldn't tell. The whispers still echoed in my head, taunting and melodic, slithering through my thoughts like some ancient chant. Pushing myself to my feet, I cautiously moved to the door, every step feeling like a challenge. I reached for the handle, hesitating just before opening it. What if there was nothing outside but darkness? What if it was lurking, watching, waiting? Gathering the remnants of my courage, I opened the door and stepped out. The stillness enveloped me again. The moon hung high in the sky, silvery beams illuminating the yard surrounding the cabin. But everything felt wrong. The air was thick with an inexplicable heaviness. A chill ran down my spine. Instinctively, I turned to face the looming woods behind me, expecting them to spill forth a flood of shadows. But there was nothing, just the sound of my own breath and the distant rustle of leaves. I squinted into the darkness, recalling the horrifying figures that had chased me. Had I truly escaped? I backed away cautiously, keeping my eyes glued to the tree line. That's when a flicker of movement caught my eye. I froze. There it was again, a small figure darting through the trees, too fast to be a trick of the light. My heart pounded. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't let them know I was scared. "Mark." A soft voice called from the darkness, echoing like a distant memory. "Why did you leave?" The girl's laugh pricked at my nerves, sending shivers through my bones. I wanted to scream, to run, to put as much distance between us as possible. Instead, I turned away from the edge of the forest and stepped away. Away from the woods, away from danger. As I walked, the air began to change. The oppressive weight that had filled the cabin lifted slowly. I found myself moving toward the old brownstone. It was as if some unseen force were guiding me back there, pulling me toward those memories I had tried so hard to escape. But once I reached the door, I hesitated. Would those whispers follow me again? Would I be trapped in my own mind forever? I took a deep, shuddering breath and pushed the door open, stepping inside. The warmth of the familiar eased my tension, but unease still clung to me like a shadow. Once inside, my feet moved on their own accord, guiding me into the living room. Everything was as I'd left it, yet the silence draped over it all felt heavy, almost like a warning. I glanced at the window, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of movement, a figure standing outside, watching me. "Who are you?" I whispered, feeling a tremor in my voice. But there was no answer. Days turned into nights, and I tried to return to a semblance of normalcy. Yet every time the wind whistled through the cracks in the walls, I half expected to hear that childlike laugh. As winter settled in, the snow fell steadily outside, blanketing the world in white. The haunting whispers never truly left me. They lingered in the corners of my mind, reminding me that I was never alone. It's strange how quickly life can change. I still think about that night sometimes. The darkness creeping in, the horrifying laughter, the eerie little girl who wanted to play. I never did figure out how much of it was real and how much was born of nightmares. I moved to another city a few months later, thinking that maybe a fresh start would help, but I never went back to that brownstone or the woods surrounding it. Part of me wants to find some closure. But now, every time the wind howls or I catch a glimpse of shadows dancing just out of sight, I remind myself that not everything needs to be understood. Maybe some doors should stay closed.